Welcome to Wilcow. I'm your host, Andrew Wilcow. All right, we're going to be producing a series of episodes called The Road to Veterans Day. Every year, I broadcast my SiriusXM Patriot Channel radio show from a bar and restaurant in Times Square called Emmett O'Looney's. It's right there off the parade route, just about a block and a half away. Well, last year, knowing that Veterans Day was going to fall out on a Saturday, I got together with a group of friends of mine, law enforcement, motorcycle enthusiasts, you name it. And we decided to create what became known as Vet Ride 2017. And it was an awesome, awesome day. We actually had a permit to shut down 51st Street between 8th Avenue and Broadway, where Emmett O'Looney sits, and we were able to fill the street up with over 100 Harley Davidsons. And riders came from Maine and South Carolina, police officers, firefighters, veterans themselves, all bundling checks that they rode themselves to the bar to donate to a series of charities, like Horses for Heroes, Wishes for Warriors, the Semper Fi Fund, the Red Circle Foundation, and others. And we raised over $35,000 right there in the bar, and everyone that donated got a really cool t-shirt. Well, this year, Veterans Day falls out on a Sunday, so we're doing it all over again. And this year we've added a new charity, the American Warrior Initiative. And Captain Sean Parnell, who's got a new book out, Man of War, sat down with me to discuss his charity and his book. Take a look. All right, as you know from the monologue, we're kicking off a series here at CRTV called The Road to Veterans Day, and you saw some pretty awesome images from Vet Ride 2017. I mean, literally, NYPD. You saw the pictures. Let us shut down 51st Street between 8th and Broadway in New York City, and we had a great day broadcasting. But now we really want to take this to the next level and bring in some new veteran charities. So joining me in studio for the first installment of Road to Veteran Day is Captain Sean Parnell. He's the author of the book Man of War, and he is the founder of the American Warrior Initiative. Thanks for coming in studio.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here for your inaugural episode. I'm psyched to be here.
Inaugural episode of Road to Veterans Day.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Let's talk about your service. You are a Ranger School graduate, and
Yes.
you were with the 10th Mountain Division. Now, that's a unit in the era of everything, Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
We don't even hear much about Army Special Forces anymore. It's all Navy SEAL, Navy SEAL, Navy SEAL.
It's true.
But the 10th Mountain Division.
Yeah, the 10th Mountain Division. I was in that unit for 6.5 years, and to me, it's one of the most storied and legendary units there is. Conventional light infantry. It's what I wanted to do after September 11th. I wanted to be in the light infantry. I mean, after watching Band of Brothers and seeing the brotherhood and the sacrifice that they all made on the battlefield together, I wanted that. I didn't want to be in the Special Forces. I didn't want to be a Navy SEAL. I wanted to be in the conventional infantry with the ground pounders that hold the line every day. And when we got the opportunity to actually go to Afghanistan, we did. And we were in the trenches for 485 days.
Wow.
We spent so much time there that I could probably legally vote in those elections. I mean, it was crazy. And by the time the deployment was over, we knew the battlefield better than the enemy, and we never left. We were on the front lines in the war in Afghanistan for 485 days. Just to put it into context, the 101st Airborne jumped into Normandy and fought to Hitler's Eagle's Nest in less time than that.
We celebrated the 17th anniversary of 9/11 last week. So many veterans. That was the moment they signed up. It was kind of like Pearl Harbor for a generation of veterans in 2001, many of whom were 18, 19, 20,
Yeah.
maybe midway through college, maybe just graduated. Let's talk about that. You saw the Trade Center towers come down,
Yep.
and you did what?
2 days later, I went down to the recruiter station and told them that I wanted to join the infantry. And not only did I want to join the infantry, I wanted to go to airborne school where the Army would teach me how to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. And then I wanted to go to Ranger school because it was the best leadership school the Army had to offer. I remember when September 11th happened, I was just a college kid and I didn't even really know what I wanted to do with my life. I think I was an elementary education major. And
Yeah. Teaching little kids,
Yeah.
or jumping out of perfectly good airplanes into combat.
Yeah. I actually student taught second graders for an entire college semester leading up to September 11th. So it was, but again, I mean, I really wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do. And I remember waking up in this like rundown college apartment surrounded by Pabst Blue Ribbon, which was the beer of choice that night, staggering over to the TV set, and I turn it on and I watch it flicker to life just in time to see an airplane crash into the World Trade Center. And I just remember like my life being boiled down to like a very fine point. Like my whole mission in life was laser focused from that moment on, and that was to get in the fight, serve something greater than myself, join the military, largely inspired by the first responders on 9/11, or just ordinary American citizens on that day who, instead of running away from the flames, ran into them, and in many cases to save people that they didn't even know. And I just remember asking myself in that moment, like, how can I sit here and do nothing when ordinary American citizens are giving their lives for people that they don't even know? It was a no-brain decision for me. I just wanted to get in the fight as fast as I could.
All right, so let's talk about being a young officer. You go in, you go through Ranger School.
Yeah.
You are, what, a first lieutenant at that point?
Yeah, by that point I was a first lieutenant. I failed Ranger School the first time through, but I made it all the way through the Derby, what they call like the RAP week, the Ranger Assessment Phase, which is sort of the equivalent if you had to compare it to Navy SEAL Hell Week. I made it through all that stuff, and I made it to the end of the first phase. So Ranger School is divided into 3 phases: Derby, Mountains, and Swamp Phase in Florida. I made it through.
I lived in Fort Walton.
Yeah,
I know.
you know all about it.
I used to see the Black Cats around a lot.
Yeah, so I made it through, but then they failed me just to fail me. And so after I made it through Ranger School the second time, I ended up getting to my unit at the 10th Mountain Division, was a young officer. I didn't know anything, and I think, if you're a young officer going into the military, what I always tell them is just go into your unit with big eyes, big ears, listen a lot, because every single one of your non-commissioned officers, their boots have more experience in the military than most young officers. So listen to them.
Is it true the scariest thing in the military is a second lieutenant with a compass?
That's true. You can't spell lost without LT, and that was me. That was me. I mean, but I was really lucky that I had non-commissioned officers and soldiers who didn't ostracize me. I mean, they had every reason to stick me in a corner, do paperwork, because that's in large part what young officers do. They just do the paperwork for the unit while the unit trains. But they didn't do that for me. They brought me out to the field, and they taught, coached, and mentored me every step of the way. And they just trained me on what it meant to be a good servant leader. And by the time I got to Afghanistan, I was ready to lead soldiers in combat. And we really did experience, I mean, you remember back in 2006, when the debate was raging over Iraq, should we be there, should we not? Should we send the surge, right? The debate, should we be sending more soldiers to Iraq for the surge or not? And so intelligence from the front lines of Afghanistan, specifically in RC East and Regional Command East, where we were going, 3 kilometers from the Pakistan border, we weren't getting any intel. In fact, up until that point, Afghanistan was just a stability and support operation. And when we got there, we learned differently. I mean, we were thrown into the meat grinder and fighting against a hardened infantry force that had been cutting their teeth, against the Russians in the 80s, fighting against the fighting in the Afghan Civil War in the 90s, and then against us in a post 9/11 era. When I was talking to some local elders in Afghanistan, they were saying that the average Mujahideen foreign fighter in Afghanistan has 20 years combat experience on your average 18-year-old American private.
And none of the technology.
And none of the technology.
Broken down Toyota trucks, probably fighting
right.
in, they don't have the cool, the high speed, cool
so
guy, tactical gear, right?
Look, it's so true. If you want to go back was there were times in Afghanistan where we'd be going after high value targets. We know where that person is. They live in that compound 100 feet away. You know, he takes his kids to school on this day, has a lemonade stand on Tuesday, whatever. We knew everything that he did 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Could we go get him? No. We have to get some bureaucrat to sign off on it in Washington, D.C. And by the time we'd actually go on the mission, that dude would be gone. And so how could this war have been won had we just allowed the military to fight the fight on the ground? Probably. I mean, I would even go so far as to say that we had the war won at the tail end of 2007 when we were on our way out. So I wanted to create a clandestine program called the Alpha Program that that had no government oversight whatsoever. I took it in the complete opposite.
Everybody likes stories of black ops.
Yeah, right. And there are 9 alphas, the Alpha Program, 9 alphas, each responsible for a different geographic area of the globe. If the president can't handle a global issue with all-out war, boots on the ground, or diplomacy, he sends in an alpha to figure it out. And Eric Steele is the alpha that the story follows. So I tried to take as much of my combat time in Afghanistan missions that I've actually been on myself and put them into this book and just sort of turn the volume up to 10. So there's a lot of action in it. It's a fast plot moving book, and I hope that the reader digs it.
Okay, so this year for Vet Ride 2018, Veterans Day, American Warrior Initiative is going to be one of the charities. Tell me all about American Warrior Initiative. What do you do? How do you raise money? Who do you help? I mean, obviously veterans,
yeah.
But walk us through it.
Well, first of all, that's a tremendous honor. So thank you for that.
We look, it is literally the least we can do.
Thanks.
Is to raise money. And I'm telling you, you have not seen an event like you're going to see
wait.
at M&O Looney's in Times Square, is where we broadcast from. It's an amazing event.
Well, so the American Warrior Initiative, I founded that with a woman named Louise Thaxton, who is the fiercest businesswoman that you would ever meet. And her father was a Vietnam veteran. Her passion for serving the military is just unbelievable. Never seen anybody support the military like that. In fact, until I met you. So the American Warrior Initiative, I founded that with a woman named Louise Thaxton that you would ever meet. And her father was a Vietnam veteran. Her passion for serving the military is just unbelievable. Never seen anybody support the military like that. In fact, until I met you. But we came up with this program. It's 100% organization. The mission is to educate, inspire, and give back to our military. So where there's an educational component to our mission, we teach business leaders in local communities about how best to work with the military with excellence. And we also teach them about military culture and what they can expect when they work with or bring on a veteran. We bring a lot of values that civilians don't have into the fight, into the workforce. And so, but we also...
Well, you've got decades of undoing, and I think we're kind of past it now. After Hollywood created the burned out, crazed,
exactly
lunatic Vietnam veteran, veterans had a hard time finding jobs because you would think if you hired a veteran, he might, go off or something.
Right.
And Hollywood created that stereotype.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I look at myself, I am a volunteer, right? I volunteered to serve this country. I'm not a victim, right? So the war didn't break me. I feel like my combat experience made me into who I am today. There's a whole concept of post-traumatic stress disorder. But that lends itself to thinking that somehow we're disordered from our combat experience. I look at my time in Afghanistan as like sort of post-traumatic growth. It shaped me into the person that I am today. So with that in mind, part of the mission of the American Warrior Initiative is to empower our veterans as well, to not just reintegrate back into society, but to revitalize it. We need veterans to be part of the national discourse in this country. We need them involved in all aspects that we can get them involved in. And so part of what we do, and a large part of what we do, is get service dogs into the hands of veterans as fast as humanly possible. And so wait list for service dog can be upwards of 10 years. And when a veteran finally finds himself at the top of that list, the cost of the service animal can be $25,000, so a veteran can't afford it anyway. It's crazy expensive because you get them as puppies and then they go through about 2 years of training before they can actually go to a veteran, so that costs money. And so what we do is we look at that wait list and then we take veterans off that list as fast as possible by fully funding service animals and pairing them with veterans and getting them into the hands of our veterans as fast as possible, And when you see that happen, and when you see people don't understand the profound impact their service dog can have in the life of a veteran. I mean, you can see the bond. It's tangible. You know,
we saw what happened to Marcus Luttrell's.
Yes, he's probably the most well-known example of
Don't ever mess with Marcus Ned.
I know, and you know that dog has his back, you know, and that's what service dogs give to veterans. They make you feel like somebody always has your back, and the reason why that's important is because with only 0.4% of this country serving during the longest period of war in our nation's history, the people that enjoy freedom on a day-to-day basis are very far away from those who protect it and oftentimes don't know what it takes to protect it. So when guys come back from war, they can feel like exiles in their own country because they feel like their own countrymen don't understand them. And so when you give a service dog to a veteran, it just gives a veteran a sense, it tells that veteran that they're not alone, you know? And not only does it change lives, I think it saves them.
All right, I'll tell you this, we're going to have many more episodes like this. Hopefully we'll even get to panels and we can get way more deep into PTSD and what veterans think are the solutions. And then again, it's going to culminate. This is the road to Veterans Day. It's going to culminate on Veterans Day. I'm telling you, you're going to have an amazing time. Thank you so much, Captain.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, coming up next, we got